There's a saying that you have to travel to learn. I don't know who said it, but I do know that this person was very right and was perhaps thinking of our destination today when he said it. Vietnam is a perfect destination for learning about traditions, culture, and a way of life that is completely different from our own. Did you know that it's very easy to become a millionaire in Vietnam? I bet that's got you curious, but wait until I tell you that one of the most traditional drinks there is snake wine. And there's much more, because Vietnam is a country with millennia of history, a rich culture, and a wealth of curiosities. Do you want to get to know this country on a journey through 25 intriguing curiosities? Then get ready and hit the subscribe button, because our trip is going to start in style, showing you a beautiful cultural spectacle that probably only exists in Vietnam. In Vietnam, one of the most enchanting and unique spectacles is the water puppet show. Imagine a puppet show, but instead of a traditional stage, the puppets move on water. This traditional art dates back to the 11th century and began in the rice-growing villages of the Red River Delta in the north of the country. After a day's work, the farmers found a creative way to entertain themselves, creating stories and characters using water as a stage. The puppets are made of wood and painted in vibrant colors. They represent figures from Vietnamese mythology, folk tales, and scenes from everyday life, such as fishermen and farmers. The puppets are controlled by skilled masters who are hidden behind a screen, manipulating the puppets with long bamboo poles submerged in the water. The show is accompanied by a live band playing traditional Vietnamese instruments, creating a magical and immersive atmosphere. The songs and dialogues are all in Vietnamese, but the visual beauty and expressiveness of the puppets transcend the language barrier. Watching a water puppet show is an unmissable experience for any visitor to Vietnam. It's an art form that not only entertains, but also offers a window into the rich cultural heritage and traditions of the Vietnamese people. So, have you ever imagined yourself watching this incredible show? Then get ready, because we've only just begun our journey through Vietnam. If you're excited about getting to know Vietnam, you'd better pay attention to what I'm about to tell you, because it's information that could get you out of a jam. In Vietnam, etiquette is fundamental and involves a series of customs that may seem curious to visitors. One of these customs is never to point with your index finger. Pointing in this way is considered rude and disrespectful. Instead, the Vietnamese use their whole hand or thumb to indicate directions or objects. This gentler gesture reflects the importance of courtesy and respect in daily interactions. Another significant cultural aspect is to avoid touching people's heads. In Vietnamese culture, the head is considered the most sacred part of the body. Touching someone's head, especially without permission, is seen as an invasion of privacy and a disrespectful act. This cultural taboo demonstrates the deep respect for people's personal integrity and spirituality. In addition, it is customary to take off your shoes before entering a house. This gesture symbolizes respect for the home and the hosts. By removing your shoes, you avoid bringing dirt and impurities into the house, keeping the environment clean and welcoming. In many homes, visitors are offered slippers to wear indoors, a practice that highlights Vietnamese hospitality. These customs may seem different to those who are not used to them, but they represent the fundamental values of respect and consideration that are pillars of Vietnamese culture. And speaking of curious customs, have you ever heard of snake wine? In Vietnam, this exotic drink is considered a real delicacy. Let's find out more about this tradition that may seem a little scary to many. Vietnam is a country that is not afraid to dare when it comes to gastronomic traditions and curiosities. One of the most intriguing, and a little scary, is snake wine. That's right, we're talking about an alcoholic drink infused with an entire snake inside the bottle. Snake wine is made by placing a poisonous snake in a bottle of rice wine. The snake is submerged in the drink for months, allowing its venom to dissolve in the alcohol. But don't worry, the alcohol neutralizes the poison, making the drink safe to consume. The Vietnamese believe that snake wine has medicinal properties. It is said to improve health, increase vitality, and even bring good luck. This exotic drink is often offered on special occasions and celebrations, and is also a popular gift for friends and family. Although the idea of drinking snake wine may seem extreme to many, It is a deeply rooted cultural practice in Vietnam. Bars and restaurants that serve snake wine often have the bottles on display, with the snakes coiled inside, creating both a fascinating and slightly frightening sight. So, if you're brave enough to try something really out of the ordinary, snake wine could be an interesting addition to your list of gastronomic adventures. But be prepared. This drink is not for the faint-hearted. And speaking of impressive things, did you know that Vietnam is home to the largest cave in the world? Yes, Son Doong Cave is so gigantic that it even has an inner forest and a river. Let's explore this natural phenomenon next. Vietnam is known for its impressive natural beauty, but few are as spectacular as Son Doong Cave. Located in Phong Nha Ke Bang National Park, Son Doong is the largest cave in the world, both in volume and cross-section. Discovered in 1991 by a local resident and explored for the first time by a British team in 2009, this cave is a veritable underground world. Son Doong Cave is so large that it could house an entire block of 40-story buildings. Inside, you'll find gigantic stalactites and stalagmites, some over 80 meters high. There is also an underground river that meanders through the cave, as well as an indoor rainforest where sunlight enters through collapses in the ceiling, creating a unique ecosystem. Exploring Son Doong Cave is an epic adventure. Visitors need expert guides and should be prepared for a trek of several days through Vietnamese jungle and rough terrain. The effort, however, is rewarded with breathtaking views of a world that seems straight out of a science fiction movie. In addition to its grandeur, the cave is also home to incredible biodiversity. Rare species of plants and animals thrive in the cave's unique conditions, making it a real treasure trove for scientists and adventurers. If visiting the world's largest cave is on your wish list, prepare yourself for an unforgettable experience. But while you're recovering from that epic journey, how about trying a local delicacy that might be a little harder to swallow, literally speaking? In Vietnam, one of the most peculiar delicacies is trung vịt lon, or half-hatched egg. This dish consists of a fertilized duck egg with a partially developed embryo, usually 18 to 21 days old. For many Vietnamese, trung vịt lon is a real treat, rich in nutrients and flavor. The eggs are boiled and served with a little salt, pepper, fresh herbs, and sometimes ginger or vinegar. The texture is a combination of hard-boiled egg with a slight crunch from the embryo. For the uninitiated, the idea of eating a duck embryo can be challenging, but for the locals, it's a tasty and invigorating snack. This dish is especially popular as an evening snack, sold from street carts. It is also considered an energy food, often eaten by people who need extra energy for the day. So, would you eat this delicacy? I'll tell you right now that I'm not, but I respect local traditions and customs, not least because it must be these foods that allow the Vietnamese to spend the day in a position that many people can't stand for even 10 minutes. Just take a look. In Vietnam, you'll notice that many people, of all ages, spend a lot of time squatting. This position is incredibly common and is practiced in a relaxed and comfortable way, even for long periods. Whether waiting for a bus, chatting with friends, or resting, squatting is the preferred posture of many Vietnamese. This habit has practical and cultural roots. The squatting position is comfortable for many people who grew up without high chairs or stools, and it promotes flexibility and joint health. What's more, it's a great example of how the Vietnamese lifestyle can be incredibly functional and adapted to the local environment. If you try to join them, you may find that, although it looks simple, it's a skill that requires practice and flexibility. I can assure you that it's not for everyone, just like being a millionaire. Well, actually, in Vietnam, it's easier to be a millionaire than it is to squat, and I can prove it. Being a millionaire in Vietnam is closer than it sounds, at least on paper. That's because the local currency, the Vietnamese dong, has a very high exchange rate against the US dollar. With $1, you can get around 23,000 dong. So, with just $50, you already have more than 1 million dong. However, this abundance of zeros doesn't translate directly into wealth. The cost of living in Vietnam is relatively low, but prices are adjusted to reflect the local currency. So while you may technically be a millionaire, don't expect to live like a tycoon. Still, the feeling of having millions in your pocket is a curious and entertaining experience for visitors. Now let's put the millionaire life to one side and get to know one of the facts that may shock many people from other countries. Although controversial, the consumption of dog and cat meat is still a practice in some regions of Vietnam. These dishes are considered traditional delicacies by a portion of the population and are mainly eaten on special occasions or festivals. Proponents believe that the meat has medicinal and energizing properties. However, this practice has generated a lot of debate and controversy, both inside and outside Vietnam. Animal rights organizations and a growing section of Vietnamese society have spoken out against the consumption of these animals, promoting awareness and protection campaigns. Food culture and traditions are constantly evolving, and it's interesting to see how these changes reflect modern values and influences. And after such a serious topic, how about something lighter and more fun? Let's talk about one of the country's most popular amusements. I'm just telling you that you'd better get your voice ready. In Vietnam, karaoke is more than just a pastime. It's a true national passion. From big cities to small towns, you'll find karaoke bars, where Vietnamese gather to sing their favorite songs. These places range from small private rooms to large halls full of lively people ready to let their voices out. Karaoke is a social activity, perfect for bringing together friends, family, and work colleagues. The music selections are wide-ranging, including Vietnamese and international hits, ensuring that everyone can find their favorite songs. It's common to see people of all ages enjoying themselves, showing off their musical talents, or just having fun. Attending a karaoke night in Vietnam is a great way to connect with the locals and experience the culture in a joyful and relaxed way. Now let's change the pace and talk about a more chaotic aspect of Vietnamese life. I think that just by saying the word chaotic, you can already imagine what our next curiosity will be. Traffic in Vietnam is a unique experience and, for many, a real test of nerves. In big cities like Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City, the streets are dominated by motorcycles. Literally millions of them circulate daily, creating a spectacle of honking horns, daring overtaking, and lots of skill on the part of the riders. For tourists, crossing a busy street can seem like an impossible mission. The tip is to walk slowly and confidently. Drivers are surprisingly good at dodging pedestrians. This organized chaos is part of Vietnam's charm, showing the incredible ability of the Vietnamese to navigate seemingly chaotic situations with impressive calm. As well as being the main means of personal transportation, motorcycles in Vietnam are also used to transport all kinds of cargo. It's common to see motorcyclists carrying goods ranging from household appliances and furniture to live animals. The ingenuity of the Vietnamese in stacking and balancing these loads on motorcycles is something to be admired. You can see entire families, father, mother, and children, balancing on a single motorcycle, or you can see a motorcyclist carrying a fridge. This reflects not only the adaptability, but also the economy of resources and space on Vietnamese streets. Motorcycles are real jokers, able to adapt to everyday needs in a way that cars simply cannot. But not everything in traffic is pure adrenaline. There are moments of celebration that also involve motorcycles. For example, during the New Year celebrations. But don't think that they celebrate at the turn of December 31st to January 1st, like much of the world. In Vietnam, even the New Year is an interesting curiosity. In Vietnam, the Lunar New Year is the most important celebration of the year. Unlike the Western New Year, the Vietnamese New Year is based on the lunar calendar and usually takes place in February. This festival marks the beginning of spring and is a time to pay homage to ancestors, clean the house, and prepare for a year of prosperity. During the event, Vietnamese cities are filled with flowers, lanterns, and colorful decorations. Families gather for large banquets where traditional dishes are served, such as bánh chung, which is a rice cake. It's also a time when people visit temples to pray for health and luck. Vietnamese New Year is a time of renewal, full of traditions that reflect Vietnam's rich cultural heritage. But while everyone is busy celebrating, you might not know that Vietnam is made up of more than 5,000 islands. Let's explore this fascinating fact next. Vietnam is a country of diverse and surprising landscapes, and one of its lesser-known features is the fact that the country has more than 5,000 islands. These islands range from small and uninhabited to large and vibrant, offering a wide range of destinations to explore. Ha Long Bay, with its almost 2,000 limestone islands, is perhaps the most famous, known for its emerald-colored waters and spectacular rock formations. Other notable islands include Phu Quoc, famous for its heavenly beaches, and Con Dao, an archipelago with a rich history and natural beauty. These islands offer visitors a chance to escape the bustling cities and explore unspoiled nature. What's more, many of these islands have unique ecosystems, providing adventures both on land and at sea. And speaking of something that requires skill and agility, let's get to know a very traditional sport in Vietnam. Sepak takraw is a sport that combines elements of soccer, volleyball, and martial arts, and is incredibly popular in Vietnam. Players use their feet, knees, chest, and head to pass a rattan ball over a net, performing acrobatic jumps and quick movements. This sport requires tremendous skill and agility, and the games are always exciting to watch. In schools and parks across the country, it's common to see young people training and playing sepak takraw, showing Vietnam's love for this dynamic activity. If watching a game of sepak takraw whets your appetite, don't worry. Vietnam is famous for its delicious cuisine, and no dish is more iconic than pho. If you're curious to know what it is, stay tuned and I'll tell you all about it. Pho is Vietnam's most famous dish and a true symbol of Vietnamese cuisine. This noodle soup consists of a flavorful broth, meat, usually beef or chicken, rice noodles, and a variety of fresh herbs and spices. The preparation of pho is an art. The broth is cooked slowly for hours, sometimes even days, to ensure a rich, deep flavor. It's common to see pho vendors on every street corner, serving steaming bowls of soup from the early hours of the morning until late at night. Each bowl of pho is an experience of flavor and comfort, reflecting the essence of Vietnamese cuisine. And as well as being delicious, pho also contributes to a balanced diet, which may explain why Vietnam is the least obese country in the world. Did you know that? Vietnam has the lowest obesity rate in the world, and this is due to a combination of dietary and cultural factors. Vietnamese food is rich in vegetables, fresh herbs, lean proteins, and fermented foods, promoting a healthy and balanced diet. In addition, the active lifestyle of the Vietnamese, which often involves walking, cycling, and daily physical activity, contributes significantly to keeping the population in good shape. The combination of a healthy diet and an active lifestyle helps explain why obesity is rare in the country. But there is another very curious pattern in the Vietnamese population, which is not the slim figure. There, almost half the population shares the same surname. Could it be that they all come from the same family? In Vietnam, a curious fact is that around 40% of the population share the same surname, Nguyen. This phenomenon is due to various historical reasons, including the influence of imperial dynasties and the adoption of family names by rulers over the centuries. The surname became popular during the Nguyen dynasty, which ruled Vietnam from 1802 to 1945. During this period, many Vietnamese adopted the name of the ruling dynasty as a way of showing loyalty or by imposition. Over time, this resulted in a large concentration of people with the same surname. Today, finding someone with the surname Nguyen in Vietnam is very common, but that doesn't mean everyone is related. From surnames, let's move on to a tradition that may make many people's hair stand on end, but which is quite common there. In Vietnam, a traditional and still common practice in some rural regions is to smoke giant pipes. These bamboo pipes are used to smoke strong tobacco, and the experience is quite different from what many people are used to. The pipes are large and require a little skill to handle. The tobacco is placed at the end of the pipe, and the smoke passes through a column of water before being inhaled. This process cools the smoke, providing a smooth but potent smoking experience. Giant pipes are often used at social gatherings and can be found in local cafes and markets. They are a symbol of traditional Vietnamese culture and a fascinating curiosity for visitors. And if you're going to talk about unique skills, you'd better be wide awake to understand something very typical of the country. In Vietnam, the ability to take a nap after lunch anywhere is an admirable and quite common skill. The Vietnamese are masters at finding a place to rest, whether it's on a parked motorcycle, in a hammock strung between two trees, or even at a desk. This practice is rooted in the need to recharge during the day, especially in a hot and humid climate. A short nap can do wonders for productivity and well-being. During the lunch break, it's common to see workers and students taking a nap wherever they are, showing incredible adaptability and making the most of their moments of rest. Napping is an important part of the Vietnamese lifestyle, reflecting a balanced approach between work and rest. And if we're going to talk about work, we have to talk about cashews, since this fruit, which is native to Brazil, has adapted so well to the local climate that it has even allowed the country to become the largest producer of cashew nuts in the world, generating thousands of jobs. Vietnam is one of the largest producers and exporters of cashew nuts in the world, a fact that many people are unaware of. Favorable climatic conditions and efficient agricultural practices allow the country to produce an impressive amount of this delicious nut. Cashew trees are grown mainly in the central and southern regions of Vietnam. Cashew plantations not only support the local economy, but also provide jobs for thousands of farmers and rural workers. After harvesting, the nuts go through a drying and shelling process before they are ready for export or local consumption. As well as being eaten as a snack, Vietnamese cashew nuts are used in a variety of culinary dishes, adding a crunchy and nutritious touch. The quality of Vietnamese cashew nuts is recognized worldwide, making them a popular ingredient in many countries. In the countryside, there may be many curiosities, but we're going back to the cities, especially the larger ones, to see some houses that are not suitable for spacious people. One of the striking features of Vietnamese architecture is the extremely thin buildings known as tube houses. These buildings are a creative solution to limited urban space, especially in densely populated cities like Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City. The tube houses have a minimal width, sometimes so narrow as to be barely 2 meters, but extend vertically over several floors. This vertical construction makes it possible to maximize the use of limited land, accommodating entire families in a surprisingly small space. Despite the reduced width, these buildings are designed to be functional and comfortable, with well-distributed interiors. The architecture of tube houses reflects the ingenuity of the Vietnamese in tackling urban challenges with practical solutions. These houses are often painted in vibrant colors and display unique architectural details, making them an interesting visual element in Vietnamese cityscapes. This is just one of the many architectural curiosities of the Asian country. The other is the large number of temples, which we'll get to know now. Vietnam is a deeply spiritual country, and this is reflected in the impressive number of temples scattered throughout its territory. With more than 17,000 temples, the country offers a fascinating panorama of Vietnamese religious and cultural diversity. These temples are dedicated to various faiths, including Buddhism, Taoism, Confucianism, and local folk traditions. Each temple has its own unique and historic architecture. For example, the Tran Quoc Pagoda in Hanoi is the oldest in the city, built in the 6th century. The Temple of Literature, also in Hanoi, is a stunning example of traditional Vietnamese architecture and was the country's first university, dedicated to Confucius and scholars. These temples are not only places of worship, but also community centers where festivals and ceremonies are held. Visiting them gives you a deep insight into Vietnamese culture and the spiritual devotion of its inhabitants. Now, it's time to find out about a common fashion among the Vietnamese population that I'm going to want to know whether you think is a good idea or not, so stay tuned. In Vietnam, blind dates are a common practice and often encouraged by families, especially among young adults. These dates, known locally as Hen Ho Bit Mat, are organized to help people find suitable partners for marriage. Social and family pressure to marry can be intense, and blind dates are seen as an efficient way to meet potential candidates. Parents or friends often act as intermediaries, organizing meetings between young singles who share similar values and goals. During these meetings, participants have the opportunity to get to know each other in a controlled and safe environment, often in cafes or restaurants. The tradition combines modern and traditional aspects, reflecting the importance of family relationships and cultural expectations of marriage. So, did you think it was a good idea? Would you go on a blind date with someone you've never seen or spoken to before? If you answered yes, you might be able to go on a blind date in one of the most interesting places in Vietnam, which we're going to talk about now. The floating markets of the Mekong Delta are one of Vietnam's most picturesque and unique attractions. At these water markets, traders and buyers gather on boats to exchange fresh produce such as fruit, vegetables, flowers, and fish. The most famous are the Cai Rang and Phong Dien markets, which attract both locals and tourists looking for an authentic experience. These markets start early, with the most intense activity occurring at dawn. Boats of all sizes, colorful and laden with goods, create a vibrant spectacle on the water. Vendors advertise their wares by shouting, and trading takes place in a busy but surprisingly organized environment. The floating markets are more than just a place to trade. They represent a way of life that has existed for generations. They reflect the adaptation of the Vietnamese to their environment and the importance of the Mekong River in daily life. If being in the water makes you nauseous, don't worry, because our next stop is an attraction on dry land. But be prepared, it's a bit creepy. In Vietnam, the embalmed body of Ho Chi Minh, the revolutionary leader and father of Vietnamese independence, is preserved and displayed in a mausoleum in Hanoi. This mausoleum, located in Ba Dinh Square, is a site of great national importance and attracts thousands of visitors, both Vietnamese and international tourists, every year. Ho Chi Minh died in 1969, and despite his express wish to be cremated, the government decided to embalm him so that he could be eternally revered. His body is kept in a glass urn, allowing visitors to pay their respects in a solemn way. Every year, Ho Chi Minh's body is sent to Russia for maintenance and conservation. This process usually takes place over a few months, during which time the mausoleum is closed to the public. The practice of sending the body for maintenance is seen as a sign of respect and continued care for the historic leader. It may sound strange, but everyone is free to worship whatever or whomever they want, even a whale. Take a look. In Vietnam, especially among the fishing communities along the coast, there is a fascinating practice of worshipping whales, known as Ka Ong, or Lord Whale. This belief has deep roots in Vietnamese tradition and is associated with protection and good luck for fishermen. Whales are seen as protectors of fishermen, and there are many legends about whales saving boats in distress during storms. When a whale dies and is found stranded, the fishermen consider it a major event. They hold a solemn funeral and build a temple in its honor. These temples, called Lang Ong, are sacred places where fishermen go to pray for safety and good catches. Every year, festivals are held to honor the whales, with parades, offerings, and cultural performances. The most famous of these festivals is held in several coastal provinces. During the festival, fishermen express their gratitude and ask for protection for the coming year. Whale worship is an example of the rich Vietnamese culture, where spirituality and everyday life are intertwined in deep and meaningful ways. This practice highlights the Vietnamese respect for nature and their ancient traditions. And so we conclude our journey through Vietnam, a country full of fascinating traditions, stunning landscapes, and unique curiosities. From chaotic motorcycle-filled traffic to whale worship, Vietnam shows us how incredibly varied and rich culture and everyday life can be. Our trip today is coming to an end, but wait a few days as we'll be back with another unforgettable tour. So subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our amazing trips. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.